Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank each of you for your testimony. Director, I understand you're saying that you've got 5 R&D. The chairman was asking you 5 R&D people that are working on the integration. Is that correct?
We actually have a Secure Innovation Credential Center, and it's a group of individuals who are responsible for looking at counterfeiting technologies and testing. But they work very closely with the private sector for that. And I think it's a great question because I want to emphasize again, we're closely tied to the private sector for all of that. We even work with the Department of Homeland Security for all the fraudulent testing in the labs.
All right, so let me follow up, Mr. Almers. Let me maybe come to you and ask you to give an opinion on that, because one of the concerns I have is when we look at integration, you can take wonderful pieces of technology, and as you try to integrate them and make them practical and noteworthy, it doesn't produce the end result. So would you comment on what you're hearing? Is that an effective way, or?
So I have no personal information that GPO isn't an adequate systems integrator, okay? My comment before about systems integration is that it's a much different task than, being a prime contractor. We want the opportunity, and I think HID does too, to be a prime contractor, be the systems integrator. So the fact that the GPO...
Well, let me rephrase it. What kind of issues can arise from an integration standpoint that would make it less secure?
Last word, I'm sorry.
Less secure.
So, just like the GPO, any system integrator goes out to look at third party, and we have a complete supply chain management system, and we pick the best of the best. So when we work with a customer on requirements, for example, for the passport card, we look to build in security features such as watermarks, such as chips themselves. We outsource all that stuff, and our supply chain management manages all that stuff. There is risk in all that part of the process.
Sure.
So the system integrator manages that process. So, Lockheed and Northrop and all the other ones in town, they do the same thing. So I'm not sure I'm answering your question, no.
All right.
I'd like to respond a little bit. He's absolutely correct. It's an ecosystem. But let's look at the Trusted Traveler program cards, which is what we produce as a printer and a card integrator. One of the ways to determine that we are doing a good job is the read rate. And the read rate for that particular card is between 80 and 90%. So there are different metrics that you can use to choose whether or not your product is doing exactly what it's supposed to and whether or not it is meeting the specs.
And I agree with that. But let me ask you that from a matrix, with GPO, how do you compare to the private sector in terms of read rates and all that? I mean, do you compare that kind of data to see how effective you are? I see somebody behind you's nodding yes.
Yes, I know. We're proud.
Okay.
We're proud. We have data to prove that our read rates for our cards are very, very good.
All right. So let me in the time I have remaining, let's talk about Title 44, and it sounds like that there is maybe some ambiguity in terms of the requirement. Director, are you willing to send out a letter to all the agencies that says that they're not required to use you for their printing to fix this ambiguity? Because that's what you were saying, that it is not really a requirement, but indeed some of the testimony has said that the State Department in particular believes that it is a requirement. So are you willing to correct the record, I guess, coming from your position?
What I'm willing to do is what I've always been doing up to this point, which is to let everyone know that it is a choice and we respect it.
So yes or no, would you be willing to send out something to the agencies that said they're not required to use GPO for so you are willing to?
I am willing to send a letter to say that it is a choice because that is the way it has always been.
Okay. And so
it is a practical business.
So do you think the ambiguity that's out there is just someone that happens to misunderstand Title 44, or is it inherent in Title 44?
I think that the Title 44 specifically states that all printing must come to the GPO. What I am trying to say, and I think I'm being very articulate about it.
You are very articulate, by the way.
Thank you very much. All right, appreciate that. What I am saying, though, is that in practical application and in true business sense, what's really happening, sir, is that it is a choice. Not everyone even comes to the GPO for printing.
Okay, in the 6 seconds that I have left,
Yes.
let me finish with this, is I would ask that you try to clear up some of the
Yes.
ambiguity. Understand that I don't want you subsidizing and competing with the private sector, nor do I want the private sector coming in and taking over. If you can do it more effectively, I'll be your advocate on that. As a business guy, I want to be. The other thing, it's a pebble in my shoe. When you have law enforcement officers sitting in cars outside your office, it doesn't give the impression of efficiency. I don't understand why the printing office would have their own fleet of law enforcement cars. So if you would address that. I'll do that.
You're not, excuse me, you.
I
really-
walk by him all the time.
No,
Now,
I
he's
know you
not
do.
sleeping half the time, so
Well,
that's good.
Half the time, he better
No,
not be
I'm
sleeping
kidding.
at all. No, would you believe it's in Title 44 that we must have our own police force?
Well, we may need, Mr. Chairman, to look at changing Title 44. I'll yield back.
All right, all right.
Thank the